Debbie Lenhard, let me just tell you just a little bit about her. Debbie Leonhardt is president and CEO of Alexander Counseling and Consulting Services, and that is in Hiddenite, NC, North Carolina, I guess. Debbie holds an undergraduate degree in music education, a Master of Divinity degree with religious education, and a master's degree in agency counseling. She is a national certified counselor, a master addictions counselor, a national certified school counselor, clinically certified forensic counselor, and in NC, she's a licensed clinical mental health counselor. She retired after serving in a school for over 20 years in Alexander County, and she's also an ordained minister and has served various churches in Western NC as an associate pastor, executive pastor, and a minister of music and youth. And one of the things that God called her to do at this time was to be there for Jonathan and Susie. And when Miss Denise Boggs called her in and said, we've got a situation happening, it was Debbie Lenhard, who has also been quoted in the Dallas News article that we have shown you. And she's also been mentioned in the Julie Royce articles that have outlined this story. And so, Debbie Lenhard, thank you very much for meeting with us today. We're very, very grateful that you're willing to take time to be with us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for allowing me to do this.
You're very welcome, and we appreciate what you have done. And I know that since meeting with the kids and all of that, you've had you've suffered a stroke. And so that's one of the things that you've been overcoming in the last little while.
Yes, I had a traumatic brain injury, and that happened a few years before I did this, but it took me several years of cognitive therapy and speech therapy to really learn to speak again and to be able to share.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you so much. And we wish you Godspeed and continued, growth and all of that. But one thing is for sure, you have been called at this hour to be an intervener in a very significant and an important case. And we just want to thank you for that. And maybe you could tell us how it came to be that you became involved in interviewing this gentleman, Pete, and his wife, and also Jonathan, Susie, and their daughter.
Okay. I really, as part of my consulting business, I do some work with various agencies or groups. And when the situation arose with Jonathan and Susie, I was asked to come speak with them and to meet their daughter and just give an opinion on the best way to continue and what needed to happen next to make sure that she received treatment. And it was a pleasure meeting with Jonathan and Susie. But from the very first time I sat down with them, I was concerned about what they told me about behavioral. I'm sorry.
No, sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I was concerned about what they had told me about the behavioral and emotional changes that was going on in the life of their daughter. And so I did have an opportunity to meet with their daughter. And quite frankly, I was convinced that something had happened to this little girl. And I say that after 20 years of serving as a school counselor and making literally 100 or more reports about SA and looking at her behaviors. And from what Jonathan and Susie shared with me, I was convinced that their daughter had indeed been affected by something very serious. And so I encouraged them to immediately get her to a counselor in the Dallas, Texas area. They were at a retreat center when I saw them, and they were here in North Carolina. And I knew I couldn't follow up on a weekly basis with this young girl. So I encouraged them to find a counselor in their area and then take the steps of reporting in Texas that they needed to. And especially that included meeting with perhaps a police officer or the Department of Social Services or Child Protective Services in the Texas area. But from the time that I first saw her, she was just simply closed down as much as any child that I've ever worked with. And it really broke my heart when I had to say to her parents, yes, I think you are right. Something has happened to your daughter. But it was clear from what they said to me in terms of the radical change in behavior that she had undergone from being outspoken and from being very lively to this closed off little girl that really did not speak and who just hid her head. And much of the time that I tried to enter into a conversation with her, she was just huddled up and closed off. And I was terribly concerned about her.
And I think that that's why Jonathan and Susie were so relieved to see you, to actually have a professional validate the concerns that they had that had gone unheard and unlistened to. Debbie, one of the things that took place was that as soon as there had been this kind of disclosure from the child initially before they came to see you, there had been a disclosure that was very, very alarming to Susie. And so she wanted to go to the police. And what she did, because she trusted Joni Lamb, she called her, and immediately she was told, no, let's not go to the police, just bring the child to me. Now, in your professional opinion, if anyone has a child that has disclosed something, what are the steps that should be taken immediately?
Okay. First of all, you need to make certain that not too many people intervene in that process. It needs to go immediately to a police officer who has been trained, or to a Child Protective Services personnel who has been trained in the specific techniques of eliciting information without planting anything in a child's mind. And so, generally speaking, the fewer people, the better before you get them to that place. You don't want to ask a lot of leading questions. You want to just assure the child, tell them that they are going to be safe, and immediately present them to people who can carry out the investigation. And other people that may be well-meaning or not, but certainly you don't want to allow any contamination of the story, and you don't really want to allow other people to speak into that situation.
And in this case, some of that took place, different voices, and also just a general desire of the Lamb family not to go to the police. And I think that's maybe the most difficult part, is that because of all of the cover-up, because of the protection of the ministry, and this had been sort of a pattern in many different circumstances, including the essay of Susie, actually, by another person right there on the Daystar grounds, from what I understand. I'm actually not certain where it happened, but because of this this cover-up sort of mentality, things did not get handled well. I guess this can be fairly common. You've been dealing with some situations over your extensive career. Your credentials are really outstanding. You have dealt with many cases of, young people being harmed and needing to intervene. Churches these days, I don't know if you could speak to this, but the amount of disclosure now coming out about the offense of people in leadership against young people, this is alarming. What do you say to this?
It is alarming. And certainly in the last few years, starting with all of the priests and the Catholic Church information coming out about that, and in all other denominations. I had an opportunity to step in as an interim minister of youth following a situation at a church in North Carolina where one of the associate pastors had taken liberties and SA'd a young teenage girl. And I can tell you the devastation that was wrought just in the church community, and the taking of sides, some believing it, some not believing it, until it actually was proven guilty. But it destroyed a good part of the church family, and certainly the family of this young lady. It put them at odds with other church members, and they took a lot of abuse because of that. And I have seen this happen far too many times in families, in churches. Unfortunately, almost to the point of where I would say, you are much more danger if you're a child from a member of your family or a coach or a community person that you are well attached to than you are from any stranger. So, our children need to be educated about that. And they need to know that it's safe to go and tell their parent, just as Jonathan and Susie's daughter did.
And it should be safe.
Love and support to carry through with that.
And it should be safe when you're in a church setting, that if there has been this kind of injustice that sickens God's heart, and that he says, if you harm a child, it would be better for you that a millstone was attached to your neck and just throw yourself in the ocean, because it ain't going to go well for you.
Yes.
It should be that the church should be the safest place, but it is not.
You're exactly right. And it is hard to change the culture of a church with that. The very last church that I served in as an associate pastor, we tried to make radical changes in our children's ministry to make certain that children were safe with all of the church leaders. And we met a lot of resistance at the beginning of that, in simply getting people to agree to go through the process of a criminal investigation, or to go through, a process making certified that they were safe to work in our children's area. So I have seen that firsthand as a church minister, and it frightens me for all of those churches who do not have those safeguards in place.
And then one thing that happens is that if the abuser is actually the leader, Debbie, then the cover-up is just huge. Everyone doesn't know what to do. I mean, they don't even know if the pastor's guilty or not. But if you're going to accuse a pastor or a youth leader of doing something that has harmed a child, I mean, you might as well just on the mere allegation of that, blow the church apart, because people will believe this kind of thing.
Yes, some will and some won't. Some will keep their loyalty to that individual, even if they suspect that they are guilty. And I don't understand that personally, but I have seen it happen far too often.
Well, the thing that I would like to see is churches be more accountable, is that out of this tremendous, I mean, this is blowing up in the airwaves. Videos are going viral. Girls like this young girl that I showed earlier are now weighing in on what is this cover up? The new generation, the people are speaking, Debbie, and they don't accept this anymore. They're not going to put up with it. And one of the things I'm hoping through all of this that's happening is that we find a new way to hold churches accountable, that there needs to be a reckoning body. And I'm very sad to say this, but I just have to put it out there. I don't know who, because no one's speaking. They're all hiding, going about business as if it's usual. Cover up after cover up being exposed in all of these churches. Nobody wants to talk. And here we know that, I'm not sure if you're aware, but it's come out in the show that Joni Lamb knew about Robert Morris, the accuser of Robert Morris, a 12-year-old girl. And she apparently had gone to person after person after person to tell them that something terrible had happened. No one listened, but somehow Joni Lamb knew a year and a bit before it ever came out, and she's all silent. And it's not just her. I believe this is huge. This is huge. Like, when is enough enough? And why is everyone quiet now? Because at the heart of this issue, is a 5-year-old that confessed and came forward with something that was gripping her and destroying her because she was being abused. And in this situation, you know, the allegations are to a family member, and all of that's come out. But this is, Daystar is under the, the protection of church status, basically. And this should be an example. There should be an example. Joni Lamb could have been the example. Joni and Marcus could have been the example, because I'd like to go through a few things with you. You saw Jonathan and Susie after an incident that had taken place at the beach. And am I correct in saying that incident had happened? There was a big crisis. Denise Boggs was brought in, and Denise was a trusted family friend of Marcus Lamb. And he gave the word that Miss Denise Boggs, everyone go to her, and she brought you into the situation. So in my understanding, you met with Jonathan and Susie first. I want to make sure I've got that right, because Jonathan always wants to clarify all of that. But
that is correct.
It's correct. Okay. So you met with them first. And if you could tell me sort of what was portrayed as what had happened and what you saw as the red flags, that there was a big concern for their daughter.
Again, the most important thing was the changes in behavior. Children frequently, especially at preschool age, cannot totally explain in words everything that they are going through. And so the way they express is in their behavior. All changes that happen in behavior to a child should be carefully examined, because this is how you may know other parents, other people may know that something has happened. If they don't want to go somewhere, if they don't want to be around somebody, even with her physical body, Jonathan and Susie's daughter was telling them that something was wrong. Something was radically wrong.
Yes, that's correct. Well, Jonathan and Susie, and I'm sure that they shared this with you as well, but one of the things was if they would go to Daystar, and if the alleged Pete walked into the room, the daughter would just literally melt, like literally shake, crawl under a table. Would this be the kind of behavior that would significantly make it seem as if she's having a reaction that would be normal in the case of an SA?
Yes, absolutely.
And so were you able to see the precious young lamb by herself?
I believe that Denise Boggs was there with me.
Yes.
As we tried to get her to open up. But I was totally unsuccessful at doing that. Like I said, I had never seen a child that was so totally shut down or closed off.
And that is the testimony of Jonathan and Susie, that she was able to disclose to them some very important details and very detailed explanation of what someone was doing to her. And she was also able to disclose that to Joni Lamb. Joni Lamb then went with Susie to the school because they were concerned about where on earth would someone have had this kind of access to the girl, not wanting to ever think that it's a family member. And Debbie, can you tell me, if it is a family member, is it typically people don't want to believe it? Is that a regular sort of feeling? Like it can't be, the grandfather, it can't be an uncle, it can't be the brother, like it's typical not to want to believe that.
Yes, unless the entire family has grown up in a culture of that. I can tell you that I had one situation when I was a school counselor that began with a 5-year-old kindergarten student telling her kindergarten teacher that something was wrong. And as the police and the Department of Social Services and I started getting into that situation, because I made the report directly to them. And it turned out that there had been a grandfather, an uncle, an aunt, 2 young teenage boys who were then actually molesting the 5-year-old, but all of them were related in the same family, and it was difficult to see this entire family had dealt with this across 3 generations, and it had never been disclosed until this kindergarten age child did so. I couldn't even imagine having 7 or 8 people in a family be impacted this way, but it was.
Very, very sad. And so one of the things that is hitting now mainstream media, beginning to talk about it, is that there's I don't know if people are shocked or gasping that sometimes we think these things can happen in families, but when we see that they are covered up in Christian organizations, that I think is drawing the attention of the media that is beginning to actually raise awareness on this. Now, one opinion piece did mention you. Were you able to see? I do have it here on my screen, JT, if you're able to share this. It said Daystar sex abuse allegation demands more attention. And this is an attorney that would definitely like to not have seen this handled the way it was. And he does mention you. And he mentions, in fact, that your credentials and knowing that there had, that you understand these things very well, more than most people, and that there has not been a thorough investigation of this. And one thing I'd like to ask you is, you, after seeing Jonathan and Susie, so this is what he says, describing the girl as huddled and shut down, Counselor Debbie Lenhard said, the way she was behaving as a 5-year-old looked to me a lot like 5-year-olds that I knew that had been threatened. And so you can concur that this is your thoughts and, in fact, what you've shared today, right?
Yes.
The family wanted to get help for this situation. And so you were then able to see a gentleman that everyone is now calling Pete, but very few, don't know who we're referring to. It's right out there. They're naming him in all the feeds. It's really out there. And, even for that reason alone, certainly if it were me being named, I would go to the mats to say, you got the wrong person. I am not guilty of this. I will do anything that's necessary to clear my name because this is ridiculous, is what I would say. And there's been none of that, Debbie. There has just simply been silence. Pete's wife speaks very loudly on all of these matters, but not Pete. And I'm wondering if you could, one of the things you were able to share, or Julie Royce, perhaps in a conglomeration of the different people that she was able to interview, determined that it was very difficult when you actually were able to see Pete. It was a hard interview, and I don't know if you can shed any light on that.
I really can't.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you want to. You're very careful because of the designation, and because you were working, to try to uncover something. Nonetheless, Julie Royce seems to have had the information, and you've probably seen that article. Julie Royce has seemed to have the information that Pete's wife was always speaking in this regard, and it was very, very difficult to actually get any information from him. Not surprising. Let's talk about a generic case.
Okay.
When you're seeing someone in a, let's call them Jane, Dick and Jane. No, let's use a different name. Let's say Susan and John. Okay, so Susan and John come in. John has been accused. What would be the correct measures that you would want to take in order to prove John's innocence or to prove his guilt? What would some things you would do be?
To begin with, as a counselor, I don't prove anything. All I do, if the court asks me, is to give an opinion about any contact I've had with them. So it's not a matter of me proving it. It really is a matter of allowing the police and child protective services and others to do their job. Now, yes, sometimes we have an opinion or a feeling, or in talking with someone, we can observe traits like body language or other things that may indicate something. But counselors really don't prove anything unless their client confesses to something and gives them permission to share it.
Yes. So in actual fact, this can be a very difficult thing. Would it be proper, and something you would at least do, is to try to speak to, let's say in this make-believe case, Susan and John, you would try to speak with John by himself?
Yes, I would certainly hope to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you are doing forensic counseling, you gather information from everybody. Like, even if it's a child custody case, then you would want to talk to the father and to the mother, to other children in the family, grandparents. That would allow you, perhaps even a teacher at school, that would allow you to give a much wider and wiser opinion to the court.
Debbie, I don't know if you would be able to confirm if you've ever been able to speak to Rebecca and JW about the letter that he wrote to Miss Denise Boggs. JW reportedly has written a letter with grave concerns regarding Pete. Were you ever able to see them?
No, I have never seen them or spoken to them as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
have nothing I can add to that. I've never seen the letter.
yes. And Debbie, when the conclusion of your meeting had taken place, and we won't discuss anything that was said or not said, but when that meeting was done, did you feel that in order to do a thorough forensic investigation, had you even come close to being able to determine anything, or did you want more meetings or ask for more meetings?
I spoke with Denise after I spoke with both of the couples, and honestly, I felt there was a lot more to be done. But I really had no control over that. Denise simply told me that Daystar had gone in a different direction in handling that, so I assumed it was over.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, I would like to understand that a little bit, because what we have heard from Rachel Lamb, who has been reporting on this out loud on a podcast, her words were that Pete and his wife were exonerated after meeting with you. That's her words.
No, that's absolutely not true. I couldn't exonerate anybody if I wanted to. But I certainly didn't say that to them or to anyone. So, no, that was not the case.
Okay. It was also reported by Rachel on her podcast that, it was a very grueling experience, basically. And Miss Denise Boggs expressed this as well in confirmation, that Pete had said there was no way he was going to go through those kind of grueling questions again, and he wouldn't do it. Did you feel that the questions that are asked in a session like this are grueling?
I never really had an opportunity to ask any grueling questions.
Mm-hmm.
I barely got past a normal greeting or introduction and simply ask one or two things. And after that, it pretty much was out of my hands.
So putting and phrasing your questions as having been grueling, that's not really the way that you saw this at all.
No, I don't consider what I do a grueling process at all.
Right. But someone who might be feeling that they're in the hot seat might have a different perspective, I guess we could agree.
Sure.
Yeah, for them, they may have felt it was grueling to just simply be asking some very pointed questions about what was going on, because it had been your understanding at the meetings that Pete had been in the room while the child was changing, and it has come out that Jonathan and Susie have spoken of exactly how that happened. that Pete was wiping the counter in the beach house. And I know that you won't know anything more than what you've been told by Jonathan and Susie.
Right.
But their account is that Susie's wiping, Pete is wiping down the counter, and Susie and he are in close proximity. The child comes up, and Mom, Susie, says, "Okay, go get your bathing suit on upstairs." And at that point, she literally witnesses Susie's account. Oh, a person that I do not find to be a liar at all, nor can I find a good motive for this. Susie sees Pete's eyes, and what she described to me, she said they turned black. And that was in her view. He literally, with a child in his hand, goes up the stairs and follows a little girl who's going to be changing. As the mother just said, change into your swimsuit. For me, I don't know a man in my life, including my father, my brothers, my husbands, my friends' husbands, or my own husband, that would ever want to be caught anywhere near going to a room where a child is about to change into a bathing suit. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, I think so.
I think so. I don't think normal folks and men walk into a situation like that. And Susie then runs downstairs. And do you remember them probably telling you what happened at the beach? She runs downstairs to get Jonathan because she didn't think that this family was going to believe what she had to say, because of course they hadn't been supportive of going to the police when she first came out with it. They hadn't been supportive of, calling the police, certainly on this person that had essayed Susie, this former chiropractor with a terrible record. I mean, they just did not want any trouble. So she knew she needed her husband, Jonathan, who has an extraordinary character, who has extraordinary strength. She needed him to be there.
Yes.
And he ran up and confronted Pete. And do you remember that Jonathan may have shared that when he confronts Pete, there is a huge scene, and Pete must have apologized, he says, 50 times or more. And he was shaking. He was not himself. He, looked like red, and this is their account. He's apologizing and apologizing and apologizing. I'm sorry. Like he's caught. And that was a very tumultuous moment for Jonathan and Susie. And then they met with Marcus and Joni, who instantly declared Pete innocent. That was their words. He didn't do this. Joni said God told her he's innocent.
Yeah.
What would, in your experience, a family that this happens to, what do you recommend would be done in this instance?
Immediately have the parents go and file a report. There is no way around that. It is imperative that the people trained to do this have an opportunity to do it, and to gather the information when it's fresh, and when there may be even any physical evidence that may be possible. And I don't think there would have been in that particular situation, but certainly that's the proper way to address that.
And Debbie, you're bringing up a very important point that I wanted to cover with you, and that was that Rachel has been posting on X private information about the young girl that was SA'd. Information she knew from Susie regarding going to the doctor and getting some help regarding some, skin irritations and things like this. And so she's been putting it out there. Of course, Rachel has taken to defending Pete and his wife very heavily. But the inappropriateness of putting these private details of a young 5-year-old girl onto the internet, which is forever, screenshots, it's so appalling. But in reality, Debbie, in your experience, if somebody is reporting an SA and let's say that it happened prior, there could be no indications of an SA physically. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. And in fact, some people would make sure that they didn't leave evidence, but they've still SA'd a child.
Yes, that is true. I'm appalled that the information has been placed out there, because I know just enough to know about the internet and how it works, that this is something that will probably follow this little girl her whole life. And that really breaks my heart for her, because sometime in the future, she's going to have to deal with this over and over and over. And that saddens me for her, yes, and for her family.
And we pray that everyone that has screenshots and as this story progresses and things happen, that go back and clean that up if you can. And, we would appreciate if Rachel Lamb, her very own niece, a lot of things have been reported to us regarding Rachel's heart, her tyranny. People hated working with her. And so this has nothing to do with this particular interview, but I will say that the nastiness that has come and been actually pointed to a young child is very shocking. One final thing, and before I'm getting close to having asked the things that I think that you can really shed light on in the scope of your your expertise and what you've added to this, which has been really huge. But one of the things that immediately Pete and his wife said to Miss Denise Boggs was they wanted to be cleared. First of all, they said they were exonerated, but Miss Denise has confirmed that was absolutely not true, as have you confirmed that's not true. But Miss Denise kept getting asked by Pete if she would write a letter for him. In fact, he said, just put something on professional paper, just do it on letterhead and it'll be fine. And she says, I can't do that. In your estimation, could Miss Denise Boggs, with her credentials, be able to clear Pete in any way?
No. She is a pastor and has the heart of a pastor, but there is nothing in her educational background that would allow her to do that. And so she very correctly told him that she could not do that.
And in
just
fact,
like I can't clear him.
Mm-hmm. And would you be able to forensically clear someone at some point, or is that not really a thing?
No, it really isn't. a forensic counselor can only give an opinion to the court if they ask for one.
Mm-hmm.
And they choose whether to take that or not take that opinion into account.
Did you ever receive a call from Joni or Marcus Lamb to get your opinion on anything?
No, I have never spoken to Marcus. He's deceased now, but I never spoke to him, and I have never spoken to Joni.
Did Miss Denise Boggs share with you that there was 3 separate occasions then that Pete kept coming to her, including at the funeral for Marcus?
Yes.
He was asking to be cleared.
Yes.
And Miss Denise says that she kept telling him, I can't clear you. You have to go and see Debbie Lenhart. You have to go and get interviews, be investigated, so that at the very least, if you were to ever appear in front of a judge or charges were to be laid, if you were to ever do that, you could give your opinion as you're talking about. But in this case,
Yeah.
You're actually indicating that this meeting, although it was a lengthy meeting from my understanding, it was very hard to get anything, and much more would have had to have been done. And did you ever get a call back from Pete or his wife asking or requesting another meeting?
No, I did not.
Mm-hmm.
All of the communication that I had really went through Denise, since she was the one that had been working with the family.
Mm-hmm. And would you testify if you were asked to in front of a judge, if this case
Certainly.
if there were to be charges laid? Would you testify in front of a judge?
Certainly.
Mm-hmm. And at that point, would you be more at liberty to say more than you're able to say to me at this time?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Debbie, I just want to leave any room for you if there's anything that you think that we have not covered, or something pertinent that you feel is an important part of this that we haven't actually touched on.
I think you've done a thorough job. So, yeah.
You even made my husband laugh. He knows my grilling. He's used to my grilling, so
Yeah.
it's part of my nature. I do hope I've asked every question. And I do believe that you're very significant, and that the Lord put you at the right place at the right time to be the one, however sort of, it hasn't led to anything at this point, but you were the one that was called, and you were willing to do it. And could I ask you one more thing? Were you paid by the Lambs? Did the Lambs compensate you for your professional work?
No, they did not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No Lambs paid you.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. I just want to thank you. And I thank you. Miss Denise Boggs trusts you very much and believes that you have had just an incredible journey, an incredible history and work with people that have been in trauma because of SA. And she knew when there was a situation that had hit a major family that you were the one to call. And so, ma'am, I thank you very much for all of this and for speaking with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, and God bless.
You too.
Thank you.